Welcome, everyone. Dr. Thor Templar here, and we're going to cover a very important area since there's so much misunderstanding, lies, misinterpretations, and plain outright psychotic imbeciles who always seem to open their lips and give us their thoughts of their diarrhea. So, Lucifer is not the light bringer. Now let's get it clear here, because there's a gross misinterpretation, and this quantifying evil as good and rewriting history or the facts is something that the common world seems to love to do now. And because we've reached to such a level of corruption on everything who claims to be good, it's really difficult to differentiate between what is considered good and evil. And this is mostly because of the fact of this bringing into a gray reality of everything in life, when life really is pretty black and white. It's either yes or no, right or wrong to a large extent. When you start getting into situational morality and other things, well, you're really getting into a very dangerous ground when it really isn't. Everyone really knows what right or wrong is, and it's quite amusing that people will try and bend that. But they bend it for their own personal empowerment, their own devious practices, and, of course, for money. What's interesting is that the world still believes from the ground up in principles that you have to convince people that what they're doing is right to ultimately get them to follow through. This is true to a degree. It's hard to get masses of people to do things if you don't hold the banner of God, country, and religion. This, of course, starts to get extremely into the gray, dull areas as soon as the banner is raised. Because people will then do what's comfortable. It's always been a very small percentage of the people that have done anything. In the American Revolution, it's thought to be 2 to, at the most, 5% of the people in the American colonies participated in the revolution against the British. And this is so true in so many areas. So it's the few that start everything. We now have governments that drag us along against our will, and people follow them. After all, you voted these numbnuts in, and now you follow them instead of having a more of a democratic reality. But the point is, can anybody really vote democratically to know what's actually on, what the issue is all about? Can they vote correctly? Do they know what's happening, or do they vote some sort of what their caliph tells them? You know, your caliph, your priest, your minister, your teacher, all the idiots that are part of the stupid system to begin with. So that's where you're going to get your information from. Your stupid, ignorant parents who are afraid of their jobs. Everything gets to be a very difficult situation. And the fact that the world is so corrupt now is certainly not surprising, because nobody stands up against it. Everybody sells out. And, of course, there's always the pressure. It's the old saying that you can take the silver or you can take the lead. This has been told particularly throughout Latin American countries to governments, police departments, military, etc., because they have a strong force of criminals there who run everything. And you certainly can stand up, and you'll be like most of the heroes out there. You'll be in the grave. So this is always a problem. And that's why governments are supposed to come in and protect you and protect the general good. Now, but people are stubborn, and they want to fight a lot anyway for some intrinsic built-in reason. So there's been a slow and complete turning over of everything that's good, because after all, they don't do anything. The good energies, the good angels, the good everything, well, you don't see their work in too many places. Of course, that's what people think. So where is the manifestations? Well, we certainly see Lucifer's work. We see Satan's work. It's everywhere. Your local police department, which is 100% corrupt. Your local military is 100% corrupt. Your local politicians who are 100% corrupt. Well, we see it everywhere, don't we? Few people stand up, and they are cut down pretty quickly. Julian Assange, we can see that right now with his case that is going on and his persecution by people that really even have nothing and no control over him and really didn't even affect them. So we see this consistently. And this is the game of this planet. So we do need to understand that's the way it is. Secondly, this game that you're here to beat, which is near impossible to beat, stop the reincarnation cycle and ascend, it's an extremely difficult game and probably should be. How many people do you want to go ascend with? Well, to quite frankly with you, I can probably count on half of one hand anybody I'd want to be with. So there's a reason for this. Secondly, nothing in life that is easily gotten or frequently gotten has value. Plain and simple. If you yearn after something, let's say a particular food you haven't been able to get in years, which has been something that happened to me recently. And when you get it, it's the most fantastic thing you've ever had now. It's been 10, 20 years since I've had these. It's wonderful. Now I got a big stock of them, and it's just boring again. It's not overly special anymore. And this goes with anything that you have in life, rich or poor. You know, if you have a Ferrari, after 6 months, it's just your car that you get go to the store in. So this is the way life is, and this is one of the problems with the human condition. Or it's not necessarily a problem. If you were satisfied with the lowest denominator of everything, society would never move ahead. If everything in society was just a slip and slide of life, where you just ran up and sludged your way to victory, well, it wouldn't have much value, would it? So this is very hard to understand, to take into consideration when you look at the bigger picture. But let's get back to Lucifer, where all the misunderstandings is. Now, the ultimate translation of Lucifer is one who brings light. Now, this does not in any way mean enlightenment, which is the Luciferians have been telling you. Well, secondly, when they make heroes out of Lucifer in TV shows, and they show bad angels winning, and I saw this trend starting pretty much in the 70s when they came out with these slasher movies. Who I now interpret in a different way. I kind of see them as the avenging angels getting rid of worthless trash that don't do anything. But initially, these slasher movies basically were considered the ultimate evil. And what happened to the ultimate evil? It couldn't be killed. Well, the point is, while these were something I never really followed until recently, and now I do find them amusing and even interesting in bizarre ways, it created the ultimate evil that nobody could destroy. You can fight evil, but you can't kill it, ultimately. You can escape it, or some can escape it, but you can't. So this is where it all started, and this has now culminated into TV shows where Lucifer's a hero. Sabrina, the dark world of teenage witches, is now worshiping Satan. And so many people are Satanists, and it is basically readily acceptable. There are people out there who claim to be popular UFO researchers and everything that are having interviews and calling their best friends Satanists. It goes on and on with these things. It's amazing. There's another parapsychologist writer who's writing all these books on different occult topics that he has mediocre value of. But ultimately, this person is a Satanist going to Black Flame events. Isn't this wonderful? I'll be talking about these people in upcoming audios. But let's get back to Lucifer. So this has been said, the morning sun, Venus, this is all Lucifer. Well, this is all incorrect. These are variants, again, to further the evil reality of life, of the ever-present Mercury or morning star. Why would the morning star be that? But let me tell you how that came into consideration as well. The point is that the one who brings light, and this means, hey, I need a flashlight, buddy. Can you bring over the flashlight? That's what it means. It doesn't mean enlightenment or wisdom. This is nonsense. Lucifer didn't have enlightenment. Lucifer was a little punk in heaven with the rest of the angels who did not want to help mankind, and ultimately a battle ensued. Check my audio on Satan, and you'll find out the greater story there. They were cast out. They were beaten, kicked, enslaved, tortured, and finally kicked out of heaven and thrown to hell, or what would be then the earth plane, which is not entirely clear if they were actually thrown to the earth plane or thrown into a semi-created hell. And this becomes an area which becomes very confused because of the information here and what different cultures are. The other thing is we have to fully understand that we need to understand things that are now in the 21st century and not some sort of ancient interpretation of, well, Lucifer really means. It doesn't mean that. Lucifer and Satan are considered one. They bring misery, destruction, disease, and evil. They tempt man. They do not help them. They manipulate you to do bad things. That's the correct 21st century interpretation. And, well, the Jews thought of them as a kind of rabbi. What is this nonsense? I don't give a fuck of what was 4,000 years ago or what the derivation of the word meant. If that's the case, then with the popular Flintstones animated TV show of the 60s, which ends with, we're having a gay old time. Well, I guess Barney and Fred were homosexual lovers. This is nonsense. In this 21st century, gay is a very taken word, and you're not going to walk around screaming, I'm gay, meaning you're happy. It was the gay 90s. What was that, the 1890s? Well, it isn't appropriate in the 21st century. We need to use terms that commonly are understood and accepted. So Lucifer and Satan are considered one. These are fallen angels. They create misery and the light that is talked about here is when a meteor goes through the night sky, what happens? Does it make a rumble? What does a falling star do? It creates light. When you throw something at a great speed, particularly through space, it creates that light. It brings light, and this is interpreted to mean something that was thrown out of heaven. Get it? That is specifically in translations as well, if you look for the right ones and not the misinterpretations done by a lot of really garbage researchers who haven't done their work. And of course, they'll write books about it. This may have equated to the constant seeing of light in the morning sky as a reminder that Lucifer has been thrown out and is still buzzing around. But let's not even get into those hyperboles of stupidity. There's certainly no enlightenment to learn from Lucifer. There's no enlightenment to learn from Satan. Now, dark forces in the occult science realms have always been used for what dark forces are good for: attacking your enemies, getting into the dirty world of money, sex, and rock and roll. You don't go up to an angel and ask them where you're going to get a piece of ass for the weekend. Doesn't make sense. They're involved in higher thought. So this is how the communication with and the contact with lower spirits, such as the scumbucket, you would call them ghetto, uneducated slobs, that are the lower class angels that were beaten. Also bad warriors, by the way, cowards who were kicked out and beaten. It seems that everybody wants to make some of the most cowardice people in the world into some sort of heroes. But of course, that's very typical of those weasels, people like Aleister Crowley and others who want to label everything evil good. People like Colonel Michael Aquino, who made sure that the American flag on uniforms are backwards. Check it out, people. These are the little things that they worm their way in, and others look the other way. And this is the problem when you expect so-called institutions that are supposed to be good and working for the public, like the military, the police, etc., who embrace this kind of things for personal greed. But these people have always been bad. They have never won the game, and they will keep reincarnating into this cesspool forever. Those who are above it all will be able to raise to higher levels and ascend out of it. We teach people how to do this, but it's an awareness. You first have to understand everything I'm telling you to be able to get that. Most people don't. But these, plain and simple, are the facts. The real ancient translations, if we're going to go into that nonsense, means the bringing of light. And this is light, not light and mint. That's nonsense, a totally different word. It shows you how they mess with that. Plain and simple. But that's what the ancient translation means. In the 21st century, Satan is looked at as an evil entity. Now, some people want to make the bad guys good. We go on and on with this nonsense because, it's just primitive man and we should respect the violence of it, the sex of it, because that's what we are. We're just dumb, stupid animals and we should do that. There are no higher paths. Well, first of all, that kind of thinking is always the lowest common denominator. That's like, there's no other food but burgers and fries. Well, there's a lot of great foods out there. So it's such a low-level way of thinking that it really doesn't take much. But, this has been incorporated. People hide behind the institutions of right and justice, behind the Bible and other things. The Republican Party is a prime example of what Satanism is all about. Take care of yourself. Don't take care of the poor. Nobody needs medicine. Let's buy more tanks so we can make my buddy rich and he'll give me some nice kickbacks. So, and of course, all politicians are similar. The Republicans are just total mad cases that nobody even seems to. But it's a plain case again, is that people then turn, as they have around the world, to Democrats and socialists who don't do anything. So it almost forces you back into the arms of people who appear to be doing things, just as in the United States. It certainly seemed that George Bush and his cronies got things done. What did Obama do in 8 years? I'm still trying to figure that out. He followed George Bush's policies. So all of these things are very typical. So this is how people go back and forth and how this entire belief system becomes empowered. Yet the laws of the world are all the same. They're all against corruption. They're all against all these evil practices. Nobody wants to be filmed involved in these things so they can be shown that, because when you take it to the public and say this person is doing wrong and you can prove it, nobody's going to stand behind the evildoers, so to speak. So this is the way things go. But fully understanding what the Lucifer principle is, and that this is some better angelic being that is just, first of all, he was not stuck on earth. He was put here because he was the scum bucket. So the point is that those who follow these people, those that think there's a great thing about all of their bizarre belief systems, that wrong is right, up is down, left is right. This kind of state of confusion is all part of the disinformation program to use and abuse you. And if they don't get you accustomed to breaking social mores, you'll start doing good stuff. You won't murder people in the military like they do now. They just go in and murder civilians and everybody else. They're not fighting for anything. They never were. There's no attacks on the United States, and there never has been, except Pearl Harbor. It's ridiculous. So the point is that all of this, they're gonna wave little things in your face. Of course, you gotta eat. You gotta have a roof over your head. You want to take care of your kitties. They're gonna tempt you with perverse sex and everything else. All this is what starts coming out there, and what the reality of what they're feeding you. And they're gonna sugarcoat all that, which you're doing it for your country. Don't worry about killing these dumb ragheads. You're doing it for your country. Ain't that wonderful? So this is the kind of nonsense. And if you ever talk to a professional military man, they have no morals whatsoever. They know their job is murdering. If they're going to sit there and think who they have to murder, if this is a just command, which they're supposed to under military law, they would never do anything. militaries, and particularly the United States military and the special forces, including the SEALs, are trained in torture and are supplied with drugs to drive people insane that they give them who won't talk. That's a fact. This goes on and on and on, people. So don't confuse it. The fact that there aren't TV shows made about Archangel Michael or the other angels or the positive ones who have been helping and protecting this planet all along, even against the psychotic human race here that never seems to be able to be helped. And the problem of the psychotic human race, who their heads are full of worms that tell them what to do, another physical fact, which I'll talk about soon. This is the reality, people. So all those people that want to jump to the other side and be part of all the dysfunctional, evil, rotten things, because life sucks because they didn't participate in a positive way in helping society, they, instead of going against the punks and the slobs and everything else, and I saw this from elementary school up to high school, they ran like cowards and let what were basically just a few bullies under 5 run an entire school of thousands. Well, that's the human race, people. Are you having a good time?